Hello, welcome back. We're working once again with SFML, the C binding for the simple and fast multimedia library. Last time was this. We're going to build on this to create something that does a bit more. And I'm not going to go into as much detail where everything is this time, but I will type everything out for you. I will show you how everything additional works, and I will give a brief overview of how this works in case you haven't watched that video and don't want to watch a long video. This should be shorter. So this is your basic include. This includes a file that includes some other key files, including window.h here, render window.h here, texture, sprite, mouse. Well, mouse I think is included by something else. But yeah. And we set the video mode. We use the video mode along with a predefined window style to create a window, a render window, one that is made for 2D. We set up we create a circle shape, set a fill color of green, set a radius of 100 pixels. We set it for events. Just create an event structure, along with creating a view rectangle and a view. Well, a rectangle to be used for a view. And the view is just so that down here, when you resize it, things don't stretch. But this runs for as long as the window is open. Pretty self-explanatory. And while the window is open, there is another loop that checks and pulls in events that have happened with the window. And if the window event is closed, it closes the window. If the window event is resized, then it takes the new width and the new height, passes them into this view rectangle, and then uses this rectangle to set a new view, to reset the view, and to set that view as the active one for the render window, so that everything stays looking the same. And then outside of those loops, we have the render window is cleared. It has the one element drawn to it, which is the circle shape, and it is displayed. Now we're not doing circle shape, so we can delete all of that. We are keeping the event things, including the resizing. Although, I think I'll mess with default styles more later. But you can set it so that it can't be resized, which I think would be better for this. It's hard to resize it with the way we're doing it. But first, new thing, we want to set up a rectangle for a texture. So SF float rect, I do believe. So float rect tx rect equals, yeah, it's coming back to me. And we want it to be the size of the texture that we're going to use, which is this, and it's 47 by 33. So 0, 0, 47, 33. And then we use that to create a texture. So we're going to create from file. We're going to define a texture first. SF texture pointer. Texture equals SF texture underscore create from file. We need to indicate the file, which for ease of use, you'd want it to be in the same folder as the code. File name, and then an area, which is why we needed an interrect. And it will need to be turned into a pointer. So file name is ship-small.png. I'm just borrowing this from an earlier project called Negative Space. If you haven't, I encourage you to go check that out. That's using something that's not as low level as this, but pretty low level to build a game for Game Jam. Anyway, and we need this txrect. We need ampersand txrect to get the address of it. Now we have set up a texture. We need to create a sprite from that texture. Should be sprite SF sprite underscore create. Yeah. SF sprite pointer. We'll just call it sprite equals SF sprite underscore create. And then it's a separate call, a separate line of code to actually set it up. So SF sprite underscore set texture, I believe. Yes. You need to specify the sprite, the texture, and a boolean to reset the texture, which is why I am including also stdbool.h, just to make sure the handling of booleans, that's true or false values, goes smoothly. SF sprite or set texture. I already forgot. Set texture. It'll be sprite texture, and we're gonna go with true. It's the only texture it's ever had, but sure, reset it. And let's comment this time. Comment. Set up the window. Set up the sprite. Used to Lewis still. Prepare for events. Set up view changing. This it all has like closed in it, so I think it's self-explanatory. This will say change the current view of the current window to reflect its size and draw correctly. Just say current window to draw correctly. Clear the current window, draw to it, and display it. And that clear draw display pattern. Graphics cards these days are made for that, so you don't want to mess with that pattern. You want to do it in that order. You want to do each of those steps every time, because that makes things go a lot faster and more smoothly behind the scenes. So we want to do SF render window underscore draw. I think draw to. Oh, I'll see it. It'll stick out. It's a big wall of. There we go. Yeah, SF render window draw sprite. And we need to specify, I believe, the window and the sprite. Anything else? render states. Yeah, we can put that as null. Okay. Oh, and one more thing. We can change this from transparent to white to make the sprite stand out because it is nearly black. Alright, and we're going to compile. Compilation, again, you're going to want to specify the path to the compiler, your input C file or files, then -L, and in quotes, the path to the libraries for SFML. So in here, you would go in here, right in here, this folder, which is what I've specified here. And then you want to list each of these, or at least the ones that you need, with a -L, and then their name without the lib or the .a. So -L CSFML Audio Graphics Network System or window. And then you want a -I. Again, that's -L capitalized for the first one, -L lowercase for the specific libraries. And you need to have both of those listed. And then after those, you have -I, and then in quotes, the path to the includes, which are libraries, but they are header files. They are not precompiled. And you don't want to specify this directory. You want to specify one directory up. Whatever directory the SFML directory is in. Because you notice these SFML/ here, all the header files have that in them. Or lots of them have that in them. And it needs to work correctly. So it needs to be able to refer forward to the SFML folder. So let's compile that. Yeah, and then after that, you just have you can just leave that the rest of it blank. I prefer to put a -O and output name .exe. That specifies where to put it. If you don't put a directory, it'll put it in the current directory that you're running it from. And if you don't specify a name, I believe it will just call it a.exe. Alright, so let's go back in. CLs. Oh, whoops. Forgot to change the C files. This is toot2. Toot2. Ah, yes. Where I'm destroying the resources at the end here. Forgot to take out the reference to the circle. SF float rect. Yeah, I typed in float. Float rect. Okay, typo. My sister's cat wants attention. He's not going to get it until I'm done. Alright, we have an executable here. And there we have it, a Sprite. But that's not all we're doing. Oh. Resize and it disappears. That's no good. That may be because it does not have a location set. It is using the default. But we're also going to move the sprite. And for that, we are going to look at the mouse event. So, window, files, event.h. So, this one took a little bit to figure out exactly what it was doing. This is another event that can be passed in. Mouse moved. And you'll see here you have the evt mouse moved, cursor moved, data and event dot mouse move. And I wanted to be sure that was what I was expecting, and it is in fact mouse. It uses type mouse move event, so it has an event type in it, an integer called x, and an integer called y. So you can very easily just get the mouse movement from this here. So we do else if events.type equals sf mouse sf evt mouse moved. Yes, vector2f. Set up to move the sprite. Set vector 2f. We're also going to hide the mouse cursor because the sprite will follow the mouse cursor. Show set mouse cursor visible. Set mouse cursor visible. Main window false. And then down here, I'm going to do set the vectors components, which are also x and y, to the event data, which is going to be yes, event.mouseMove, event.mouseMove.x, and same for y. And then we're going to want to set the sprite's coordinates with those coordinates, so that data. It's setting the position of the sprite. SF sprite set position. Set position sprite mouse sprite. Now you can do sprite.move, and that will move it by the amount that you specify. Set position specifies the absolute position within the window, or the window's coordinate space. And it takes in a vector2f, which is why we needed to specify it in that way. But it's also just kind of handy. This puts out a vector2f. This takes in a vector2f. So, you know. Let's move that over to here. Get mouse data and set the sprite location. And that should be good. Compile. Passing argument 2 from incompatible pointer type. I don't seem to remember that from before. But, oh yes. I also wanted to make it bigger. Make the window bigger. To see the title, have more space to move it around in. And what? Yep. Once we move the mouse over the window, it moves with it. Move the mouse off the window, stops moving with it. And one sort of thing is that when you move it over the title bar, it's still not visible. You have to move it further up to see it. But fortunately, when you hover on one of the buttons here, it does show you. But it doesn't show you if you're on this icon, and if you double click that icon, it closes it. So you want to be careful about that if you're way up at the top. I might go into how to selectively show and hide it depending on if it's over the title bar in a future video or something else. But for right now, that's it. Hope this was helpful. Maybe back with more on SFML. I definitely will be back with more gaming and more programming. I'll see you.